Greetings, curious acolytes of the galaxy, and welcome back to the archives. Recently, we did a video all about why the Force seems to avoid the HUTT as a species. In that video, we did make mention of the only HUTT to have ever used the Force. He also happened to join the Jedi Order and would even survive Order 66. Our source today comes from the EU novels post-Return of the Jedi, specifically the Legends Planet of Twilight novel where we first meet Borian, the HUTT Force sensitive. So my friends, without further waiting, let's open up this holocron and learn about this mysterious and powerful Jedi HUTT. Borian the HUTT joined the Jedi Order sometime prior to the year 400 BBY, where he would spend most of his youth training in the Jedi Youngling Academy. This would put him right in the beginning of the High Republic era, which would make sense as Borian later makes mention of Master Yoda. While we don't know much about his days as a Jedi, we do know that he was elevated to the rank of Jedi Knight, and soon sent out on a mission to a mysterious planet named Nam Chorus with a fellow Jedi named Tiselda. Upon reaching the planet, however, the pair would discover a strange crystal native to the planet known as Tisil stones. Borian would discover that these rocks actually had the capability to boost his power in the Force. Borian would be overcome by greed, his HUTT nature outshining his Jedi training. Lured to the dark side, Borian defeated his companion in a lightsaber duel and decided to stay on Nam Chorus for the rest of his life. He would establish his own kingdom there and became its ruler, using his powers in the Force to subjugate people and make them his servants. Borian, now officially a Dark Jedi, was largely forgotten to the galaxy at large, and on this backwater world managed to escape Order 66, even though Darth Sidious likely would have killed him too. On this planet, Borian ruled with an iron fist, as he did absolutely everything that he desired and gave in famously to his whims, swimming in his greed. But the world was also home to a native species known as the Druus. These were tiny parasitic insectoids that would burrow into the flesh of their host and take over their bodies, growing from the inside out. One such Drok would actually be genetically mutated to take on humanoid form, and he took the name of Dizim. He went before Borian and came to conspire with the HUTT, helping the Dark Jedi remain strong and youthful in exchange for the freedom to access the planet's rare stones. Little did Borian know that Dizim's real plan was much more sinister. Dizim was siphoning Borian's Force energy to use the stones to prepare his people, the Droks, for a full-fledged invasion of the entire galaxy. Putting both the New Republic and the Empire at risk, Dizim planned to flood the galaxy with his people and have them take over every living being. In the year 13 ABY, Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewbacca would travel to the world and would put a stop to this epic plot. Keeping a very long story short, Leia would end up captured by the Borian HUTT, though eventually she would gain her freedom and reclaim her lightsaber, entering into a fierce duel with the ancient HUTT Jedi. Even though Force sensitivity does not often flow through the HUTTs, Borian was incredibly and shockingly powerful. We unfortunately may never get to see the extent of his true power in the Force, as by the time Leia encountered him, he was greatly weakened from what he once had been. Because Dizim was feeding off of his Force energies, it left his abilities greatly decayed to the point where he sometimes had difficulty levitating small objects, though his mind abilities were sharp, as he could use the Force to induce migraines on his subjects that displeased him, and it was even said that he had a hypnotic gaze, which would dominate the minds of anyone he looked at, though Leia was able to resist his mind games. Despite being sapped of most of his power, Borian was still capable of summoning massive Force storms, which is a feat that even some Sith at the height of their power were unable to do. Surprisingly, he was rather adept at lightsaber combat as well, possibly having even been trained in Form 7 Juyo. Rather than allowing himself to grow fat like other HUTTs, Borian used the Force to remain youthful and muscular, sticking to the warrior-like traditions of his ancient people. Leia would engage the HUTT in a brief lightsaber duel, where she would gain victory, but at much difficulty. Borian wielded his purple saber with great skill and power, able to torque it at the last minute and use unconventional strikes against the young Jedi. He also possessed incredible physical strength, nearly breaking Leia's wrists each time they clasped blades. However, the fact that he had allowed so much of his energy to be taken was starting to catch up to him, and Leia, despite having only been marginally trained in the Force and in lightsaber combat, was able to outmaneuver and bisect the HUTT Dark Jedi. It is a shame that we don't see any other Jedi or Sith of the HUTT species, as Borian is the only one documented to have existed in all of galactic history. Though the galaxy is a big take place, and in nearly 35,000 years that the Jedi Order has been around, it is tough for me to believe that only one HUTT has ever been trained in the Force. What's noteworthy is just how powerful Borian was, able to resist Order 66 on a backwater world, but also likely because of his natural strength, similar to the likes of Wookiees, who were also very rarely Force sensitive. Borian was extremely powerful and gifted with the Force, as the Force seems to shun other HUTT species. I really do hope that Lucasfilm takes a gamble and makes another HUTT Jedi or Sith. I think it would be entertaining to see HUTTs in scenarios outside of their typical criminal nature. I am reminded of Blotus the HUTT, who actually served in the chair of the Supreme Chancellor. He defied all stereotypical traits given by the HUTTs, going down in history as an extremely competent and good individual, and being described by many as one of the most distinguished Supreme Chancellors in all of galactic history and that the Republic ever saw. Then of course in the HUTT species, there was also Juvard Illup Olgaburp, a HUTT who was well renowned as a scientist that carried himself professionally and did wonders for droid advancement and technology. In conclusion though, Borian the HUTT is not only the only Jedi or Sith, but the only ever Force sensitive of the HUTT species in all of Star Wars lore, and it makes sense that he did eventually embrace and turn to the dark side of the Force, indicating something interesting about the HUTT race, that they are likely naturally inclined to the gifts of the dark side, even when the Jedi give one of their Force sensitive a chance. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this? Where do you think the HUTT's natural alignment lie? What are your thoughts on why the Force appears to reject the HUTTs? And what are your thoughts on this analysis on the only ever Force sensitive HUTT that we know of in all of Star Wars Legends and canon? And as always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching and continuing to support the channel. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.